Okay, so
And hopefully that last recording was quite difficult because big screen wasn't there. So I'm hoping the big screen's going
oh
to be
yeah,
good.
is your service restored? Mine
I
is.
think so.
Can you see that?
Ah, yes, I can see it.
Hey.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh,
Okay,
nice.
great. So I want to talk about some architectural changes, compromises, and strategies. Um,
Those
I
are always
want
fun to figure out.
to. That's so like they just make me feel like throwing up all the time. But um, and then I wanted to talk about the reconciliation of the previous transcript into the definitions.
Okay.
I wanted to talk about some of the actual stuff in the definitions as opposed to the process that makes the definitions, such
Mm-hmm.
as decentralized income and other
Yeah.
fun things.
If you can roll into that, we really do need to converge on uh, the over-indexing on the word dreamcatcher.
Sure. And I wanted to go revisit the mini eval that we started doing last call
Yeah.
and see if the reconciliation of the latest transcript has improved the performance of that eval and continue on doing some more evaluation of the definitions because as slow going as that is, I mean we got one turn into the multi-turn chat session and then that was it for that session. But the point is that that is a form of rendering that amplifies what the definitions are and we build on them and blah blah. So
Right,
so
right.
that'd be good.
And there's another concept. Well, there's a process I think we need to think about, which is I was watching that chat yesterday, and it's like these are good stuff, but there is uh, having come up with good stuff, we want to commit that to evals, and that shouldn't just be by whim. That should
No.
be, running a
Yeah.
whole bunch of
So
having broken it.
the main thing we have to figure out, and I'll put forward a couple of suggestions for how to bring the definitions into a nap because that's where I think they should be as opposed to
Oh, okay.
anything else,
All right.
right?
That's
And
interesting. Yeah.
then
Okay.
if we bring it in as a nap, then alongside it, we should be bringing in the website. Um, the website should consist of the definitions plus like the seeds of blogs, where the blogs are like they're not definitions, but they're built up using definitions. So they include extra information from us, but they assemble the definitions. So they're not like a blog post is not derivable from the definitions, but every
Yes, but
blog post should use the definitions.
yes. It's interesting actually. A blog post that is written, handwritten, is forward facing, and so there's something. Yeah, I think you're getting onto something there. It's almost like a render of if the blog post and the definitions disagree, there need to be a kind of
Yeah, a
reconciliation
reconciliation,
step.
right? Like
Can you
the
can you
power
give
of
me
the
sorry? Can you give me two steps? You're quite quiet, so I'm just
I'm quiet. Okay.
going to turn the volume up if you can find it.
Configuration option. I'll keep talking, which seems to be not hard to do.
Sound. Where's my volume?
The little rocker on the right hand side of the headset,
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Forgot about that one.
the physical button. You wanted the old virtual control.
Fuck. Wait a second.
Oh dear.
Got it. I'm
You
not
good?
very tactile. I can find it.
Okay. You good now?
I think so. I'm pressing
Okay.
it, and Don't know which direction. Yes, there you go.
There you go. There you
Happy days.
go.
All right, okay,
All right,
crack
you
on.
good? All right. So, and the last thing I want to cover is the notion of putting these definitions plus like some blogs and making like website bot out of
Yes,
them,
because
right?
that should fall out, and
That
the
should
website
be
bot
possible.
could
Yeah.
be it should be a dynamic website ultimately, but don't
Well,
have to
that's
go
the
that
thing,
far.
right? And then
Yeah.
the there's another area too that needs to be added, which is using the same reasoner techniques that we have for the definitions and using the definitions. We
Mm-hmm.
need to also make a set of documents that represent the implementation or the requirements, because I came up with a rule
Mm-hmm.
that was in the definitions, nothing should show. Oh, crumbs. I'm really sorry. I need to actually get my on screen presentation
Don't
skills up.
worry, my screen's misting up because it's so fucking cold here.
Um, these definition standards are what I added to say that the definition should be implementation agnostic, which is to say that, for example, even if some aspects of the stuck can be met by an NFT, we shouldn't talk about it in terms of NFT. We should just talk about the properties about it that matter, like the immutability, the movability. Like
Yes.
yeah,
And the thing I'd add to that, I don't know, you might have had that. Definitions, importantly, uh, can you can add in different fields, but they have to be self-consistent in order to get the best result.
yeah. That's the reasoning, the reasoner principles,
Yeah,
which haven't been written down anywhere because we got them in our head. I
yeah,
don't know where they go. I feel like maybe that's like another nap. That's like the reasoner nap that has a collection of tools to help you reason. But right now we're just hand cranking the reasoner. But
yeah. I'm kind of calling that I'm dumping all this into a bucket called paradigm right now, but that's probably not
right,
the right place.
yeah, yeah. But there is another bucket that's one level above this, because what we're doing here is the output of the reasoner. The reasoner itself needs to be reconciled, reasoned about, worked through, that kind of thing. But
Yeah.
what I was trying to get at is that if we say that the definitions have to be implementation agnostic, that implies that somewhere there is a set of reasoned documents that are implementation specific and that choose or describe how the different naps that make up Artifact and the Dreamcatcher, how they relate, what they do, all that. And from there, that's what I build on.
Yeah, no, that's true because the definitions are intended to be self-consistent set of assertions, and it can be expressed in many ways. Uh, but in order to use those, you need it's almost like a runtime layer, isn't it?
Yeah, there's
Of
different.
which
There's
NAPS is
different.
one way of doing it.
Yeah, yeah. That's right. That's right. That's right. So, where do you want to start?
What's more useful for you because I'm on catch up.
What's useful for me is, I don't know why it feels this way, but showing you some cool tricks, or
Okay.
showing you the reconciliation steps I did the other day,
Mm.
how I reconciled the transcript. That would be fun. So I'll do that, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. So now,
Como sempre
for some
pouco
reason,
por
it goes
só por
into Spanish.
I get that every now and again. I think it's what model are you using?
Claude.
Claude. Oh, I didn't know Claude was doing that. Oh, one previews definitely doing that. Every now and again, it just starts to talk in a different language. Uh, we'll
Okay,
sort it out. But
so
that's probably not our
when I
issue.
was reconciling, Oh dear. What have I done? What have I done? Oh yeah, this was a trick I wanted to show you.
Yep.
Oftentimes, when the point of decentralized income has come up in discussion, I have attempted to amplify it and say that that is the single most important aspect of the whole system from my perspective. You don't seem to argue much with that. So,
No, mostly because I'm not clear on what the definition of decentralized income is, and
well, aren't you lucky? Because here is you've come to the right live stream, buddy. Um, what I did, this prompt, given how the definitions are arranged in the definitions, how can I raise in importance the decentralized income piece? It really is the point of the whole exercise. Now, if you tried to do that on your own, right, that would be impossible, I would dare say.
did you pre-prompt it with knowing what decentralized income as a two-word pair means, or is this?
It was only extraordinarily lightly touched on, like its definition. If I'll bring up the history of this piece. If you just watch my
Because that'll be interesting to see how well it deals with that, because it knows what decentralized is, it knows what income is, but it's like if
no,
you
it
like
had a it
keys,
had
if
a
you like
very
cities.
light description, and I'll pull it up in the timeline for you. Just give me half a tick.
Hmm.
So 1 day ago, this is all it was.
Okay. Yeah. Just, income flows through platform as assets. It's usually yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay. All right.
that's all
Yeah.
it was. And by the time I finished reconciling, this is what it is now, which is
Okay.
right, much more in depth. But the key that I wanted to highlight here was that it's not only this document, but if you
Mm-hmm.
go through this chat, and I'm sorry there isn't a good way to share the chats around yet,
No
except
worries.
for video, but
Yeah.
um, it's like
Oh, I see
right,
what it's doing. I see what it's doing.
it's gone through.
It's seeding all the other definitions to
It's
refer back
adjusting
to
everything
that.
else to relate to it, so that it's almost like the Google PageRank score goes up because
God, that
it's
would be
a nightmare, right?
weeks of work to
Right,
do.
and you wouldn't
Yeah.
even know how to do it, and you wouldn't right. But with using the large context model, and I want to reaffirm how like you gotta use large chat to get this to work. So normal chat, long context chat. You gotta use long context chat, or this
Yeah.
trick doesn't work. Because
Yeah.
what happens is, actually, I'll show you directly what happens when you don't do it.
It's all right. It's all right. I'm just going to take that as a rule. Um,
Uh, please let me finish. I think there's something very vital for me to show here. It took me a long time to find this, and I think it'll
yeah.
be
Okay.
of great benefit to you. Um, so this is normal chat, and what
Yeah.
what happens is it reads in the files, but the
Mm-hmm.
issue is that they come in chunked. They come in with just embeddings that have been selected, and you can tell that by clicking this final context, and it
Mm-hmm.
says that these files and the line numbers. So when you click on it in the final context piece, it highlights what it brought in.
Mm-hmm.
And you
Okay.
can
All
see
right.
that it's not actually bringing in everything, it's only bringing in little bits,
Oh,
right? But when
that's
you
never going to work. Yeah.
nah, right? I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know why anyone ever thought that that was a good idea. Like that's a stupid thing.
It's like
Um,
let's ignore the most of the context.
yeah. I've always hated that as policy of RAG. I'm like, just stop being cheap. um,
That's right. Yeah.
um,
I'm sure there's other users that find it terribly useful, but
No, it's
yeah,
yeah, screw them, you know. But
yeah,
if you, this is an example of a chat that was, you can tell it was started using long context because it uses these different long context models, of which interestingly 4.0 is in there. But so
uh-huh,
far, I get the best results out of Claude 200K. When you
uh-huh,
click on final context here and you click on each file,
mm,
you are getting you are getting all the things. This is, I think this is not showing up right because I altered this file significantly. This whole thread altered that file significantly, but in
uh-huh.
general, it pulls in all of every file
Only if it's on long context
only on long context. Yeah,
and Gemini 200K
no
is
Claude. Well, you can
sorry.
pick anyone. Gemini's got a big ass one, 500K, but
Oh, yeah.
I've been using Sonnet 200.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, you will need to. You will. It'll cost you, I think, like 10 cents or 20 cents a hit there, but just pay the money. It's so worth it. I don't know who thought partial information could get you anything of meaning.
Yeah.
Um, but that's what I found, and it works great if you use full context. If you don't, it sucks. Um,
Okay.
yeah. So while we're here, I made a little tool, and that little tool is called the token counter. And what this does is it goes through all the definitions and gold definitions and it counts the tokens according to the O1 tokenizer. And then
Okay.
sums them all up and it says in total we have 10,000 tokens. And so that means that for a Claude is roughly the same. It's not exact, but Claude is roughly the same. So for a 200K context, we used 10K. So we
Yeah.
got loads of headroom. So um,
Yeah. Yeah. I've still not got a clear idea of how to convert in my head tokens to cash.
tokens to
Um,
cash.
yeah, I know you can do it, but it's like, there's a process and a cycle. It takes about 4 steps, and I've never can be asked. So it's a
Yeah.
relative value,
I
really.
just I deal with the money by like what's if I just use it as much as I want, how much did the day cost me?
Yeah, I think that's a
And
better way of doing it.
so far I'm burning about maybe $5 to $10 a day, which is pretty weak in the scheme of things.
Oh, it's a couple coffees, isn't it? It's nothing.
Oh, it's only one coffee around here, mate. But your fucking $2 fucking cost, good
You're going
fucking
to the wrong
co-op
cafe.
things. Yeah, I
You
am.
know,
I am.
back in Scotland. No, no,
I
that's
was
the
amazed at your food prices. Actually, things were cheap. Like you could get a block of cheese for £2. Over here, it's about the equivalent of £6. It's
really.
yeah, it's murder out here in the colonies.
Well, you're a long way from anywhere. But hold on a
Yeah,
second. You guys make cheese.
yeah. But so clever people who call themselves economics people, the economists, whatever the hell they are, they're like, you have to pay the world price because that's what we sell it for elsewhere.
Well, it's no.
No,
Yes.
it's worse than that though. That also the best cheese and the best meat gets exported because people pay more over there,
Yeah.
and especially with the exchange rate. And so we get the shitty cheese from our own country at a higher price. And
Oh God, Adam
uh,
Smith must be
right,
turning in his grave right now.
it's not just him. It's like there are like memes on the internet about the cost of food in New Zealand and how like the cheapest thing you can do is leave. Um,
Well, there's an interesting one they came up with postal services, which is a weird one, but it is cheaper because Christmas is coming up. If you've got 100 Christmas cards to send, it is cheaper to fly to Lithuania with 100 Christmas cards, post them in Lithuania, and then fly back. And it's like, really? And
Mm,
I checked it out, and it's like, yeah, it's actually quite a lot cheaper. It's about
wow.
25% cheaper. Anyway, right,
Or
okay.
you could just cancel Christmas. That's cheaper still.
Yeah,
So here I've been trying to keep the token count updated in the README so that you have a meaningful idea of how much context the definitions are taking.
okay.
I don't. I have a suspicion that there's no point having more information in one single unit than maybe about 30k tokens, just because the definitions here are feeling fairly close to complete. And if you make them too big, it means that you haven't segmented what their purpose is. And so like one of the good segmentations is to say they are implementation agnostic. And so they represent a concise unit of reconciled information with some constraints on it. It's not all the
Yeah.
information reconciled against all the other stuff. And the purpose is that you can then take that reconciled body of knowledge and apply it to the the implementations body of knowledge, for example.
Is this similar to what we're talking about? We're taking kind of slices through views. So if you're an investor, you don't really want to know about.
Sort of, but different. It's sort of same concept, but the difference is that in the principles of reasoning, it seems that the base layer of reason for building up all these other useful layers of reason should stay small because it should be indifferent, I suppose, to how
Well,
it's done.
well, yes, and this is something that's often missed. Uh, uh, so Robert Pirsig wrote a great essay on this one for science. It's like, okay, you're writing down the preconditions of your experiment. Where do you stop? You can stop at the point of, say, it was a chemistry experiment and the mechanical mixing. You could go with ambient pressure, ambient temperature. You could go with the size of the room. You could go with what city you're in. You could go with what planet you're in. At some point, it becomes ridiculous. So to get the good result, you really should be trying to reason with as small a chunk of things that make sense, because above that, maybe it matters that we're
Yeah,
on, this planet, but
yeah.
it
So
doesn't really matter. So
no,
yeah,
so
I agree. I
it
agree.
starts it starts to look like there are some definite groups that feel like they'll be the same no matter what the task, like base definitions, implementation agnostic,
How do we,
implementation.
for other than saying, I want to consider Parent Path trading as and Dreamcatcher Foundation, other than specifying it, how do we, what's your thinking about discovery of what the scope is so that you don't ingest too much?
I think once you can, without any circular definitions, you can do renders that no longer fall short, because that appears like that doesn't go on forever, and in fact it's logarithmic, because the more renders you do, the amount of changes you need to the base definitions gets less and less.
Yeah,
So long as you put certain rules in place, like implementation agnostic, and then what
and
you do,
yeah,
what I think is the way to do it is once you've got that the set of definitions that are just pure, they're like pure natural language implementation free. I don't know what the full proper word to describe it is, but I'm sure the bots can help us there. But what what you then do is you take that as context and use that to write the other segments. Like implementation would always be written with the definitions in hand, and like all the stories that you want to write, you would write them with the definitions in hand. And so you're using this thing that you're calling complete or exhaustive, as best you know, to then produce further works of originality that have a different set of constraints over what they are, and then you reconcile in between all of them, and that way you don't blow up your own brain, but there's something good happens. I'm not sure how to describe it, but definitions being isolated and pure means that they apply well to every other area that you want to do without them being polluted back. Like a smaller set of definitions that is pure is far more useful than a broader set that is
Right.
impure and incorrect.
Absolutely. And we're talking about we can allow the definitions to grow as we're getting to use with it. But then the next step is to reduce and tighten and compact
Mm.
and still maintain self consistency.
Yeah, and
Um,
it even starts to hint at whatever it is you're doing. If your definitions just keep on growing, you are doing the wrong thing. Like you are
yeah,
not doing a thing. You have failed to describe your boundaries correctly.
right. And with, if you imagine a reasonably maximally compact set of definitions, then the discovery almost falls out because of the description. It's like, okay, we're talking about, in this case, in the last example, I can't remember what it was, something to do with, trading ads and um, investors. It ignores everything else. Um, so the discovery thing that I've been banging on about, it almost feels like definitions, once they're compacted, don't cost that much, a few cents, without actually having to have another bot do, which is what I was thinking about previously, to have a definitions bot or a
Yeah,
discovery
it's
bot.
not like the
It
size of the
seems to
tokens.
just
I
like,
mean, 10,000 tokens is nothing.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so
So I think we can delete, or I propose that maybe we could delete the idea of a separate discovery phase. Now we've got the idea of a minimalistic set of well-formed, self-coherent definitions.
I don't know the answer to that. I think that we've got enough of a feel for it that we can do a first pass.
And see what
Um, and
happens.
and so what I wanted to figure out with you is what that looks like, and I think it looks like taking this set of definitions here and like this whole folder basically, and moving it into the naps folder, because this whole project should just be a nap.
Okay, so rolling back about 15 minutes, because I took you down a rabbit hole just to understand that you were going to show me something, and then we're going to talk about taking the definitions into the naps.
Yeah.
So, because I asked about what was the context behind the prompt that got you to that thing. So, do you want to roll back to that point, or
Sure.
shall we go into the naps thing?
No, that's cool. Um, rolling back, rolling back.
I'm I'm very keenly aware that I take us down rabbit holes that are not necessarily needed to be solved right now.
Buddy, that's been our whole life, and we wouldn't have got here if we didn't chase down all the rabbits we could possibly find. I do think that we're coming up to the end, though. I really do.
Yes.
Okay, so decentralized income. What I was showing you
Mm-hmm.
was how do I raise the importance of decentralized income?
Yes.
And using the long context, it pulled in all of the files in the definitions, and then it made these suggestions.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, emphatically, yep, go do it. Right. So then it
Yep.
it
Yep.
banged out a much longer decentralized income piece, which I think warrants going over directly, you and I.
Mm-hmm.
And then it went through and laced it through ambient attribution, impact crystals, um, payments, traders, like it basically laced it everywhere, all over the
Nice.
place. And then
Well,
it's like,
that is the the benefit well-formed definitions is that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry, I don't need to say that. You know, already know it.
I
Yeah,
know that. I
yeah,
experienced it. It
yeah.
tasted good. And then it hadn't finished. It just ran out of tokens. And I was like, yeah, yeah, no, keep going, keep going. And so it just gets sort of, laced more and more and more. uh,
Nice.
right? Like, honestly, you could not do this. I wouldn't. I certainly wouldn't, right? But
Oh,
then, sorry?
you. Yeah. Sorry. Go on. Yeah. No, I'm just perfectly agreeing.
Yeah. And then the best thing is that what it does is because it's in git commits, we can go in and see. My idea is that when we want to change the definitions, what we would do is pull request against the main branch so that we could keep control of when the definitions are changing. Because right now
Mm,
I'm changing them, because I felt like it. But
yeah.
we need to get to the point where it's much more measured when it comes in. Um,
It's yeah, and that's where the evals come in. It's like,
yeah,
yeah, you've gone
yeah.
off. You've gone off in one here, man. You're failing on
Yeah.
this.
So
You
what's
really
quite
care.
what's quite good about Git diffs is that I can look at, what was the purpose. Okay, I was reconciling the chat, and then I moved on to this decentralized income piece, which I thought was funny because the bot actually made this joke, and it was like, okay, I will try to centralize the
Centralized.
decentralized income, and I was like, are you being funny or what? Because but anyway, you can see here how it made its mark across all of the options. Like by asking it to like see what a big change it made to ambient attribution.
Mm.
Like it actually caused it to expand or unlock large portions of other definitions that were a little bit weak.
Yes, and the useful part is if you want to go back to a meat brain review, you only have to look one line at a time and say, "Is this true?"
Yeah, yeah. And so again, there's like techniques that I'm forming. I'm sure you'll form your own where I start to care less about what it used to be and care more about what it is now because I'm starting to trust that the bot never says something dumb. Like it never makes a change that's bad. And so all that I'm starting to narrow in on is does,
Absolutely,
you know,
absolutely. Every time something odd happens, it's usually not the AI's fault.
it's not the AI's fault. It's actually remarkably good. And it gives me the impression like it understands because it's building on all the other reconciled and checked things. Like that's really the power I'm seeing is that because I've focused so much on the previous definitions and they're all good, that's what it's leveraging on for context in terms of tone, information,
Yeah,
breadth, the length of it, the style of writing, all that. That's why all these new things that it changes feel like they're correct. And it's a feeling of like, this thing's got it. It's not that this thing's got it, it's that it was contextualized correctly.
yeah, because we started off with scrappy but and incomplete, but coherent, and then marking from there. So it's almost like if we were to do this for something that wasn't Dreamcatcher, for example, what you'd want to do is to have at least one definition to start with.
Yeah, yeah. I think having a conversation is actually the best way to rapidly get your definitions up, but let's hope we don't have to start too many projects too often. Yeah, so all I was trying to show you is that it worked decentralized income all the way through. And then I was able to, what it, the other effect it has that I noticed is by causing me to read through each individual definition, I now realize other things that are important that I hadn't actually thought about before because I'd been blocked by trying to get a particular layer of definition out And then I realized things like, well, there's actually some detail in there that I hadn't considered, that this
Yep.
bot, all the bot's doing is just reasoning through it, and it's saying things that make sense. And I realized that that needs correction or modification.
Did you? I think I mentioned this, but I haven't measured on it. Something that I find very useful is asking the bot. Okay, so assuming everything above is correct, can you show me any contradictions
Yeah.
in the
Um,
new?
so so that's things like this type of question here. What errors or weaknesses can you see?
Yes. Yeah.
Um, those
Yeah.
kinds of
It
things.
exactly? Is it? Is yeah. I always use the other. Is this self-consistent?
Yeah. So what I
Um,
think we're going to end up doing here is making a bunch of naps that capture those techniques and phrases that we both like, so that they trigger automatically. Because
hmm.
even though this is a massive, massive step forwards over anything we've had before, it is at the point now where it's starting to require a bit too much manual
Yeah.
work,
Yeah. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
my
Exactly.
prompts are also starting to repeat, like what errors or weaknesses. Like that should be done before it proposed a change to me. It should have done the self reconciliation loop, and like it should have ground through it a
Yeah.
couple of times, right?
Anytime you need to write the same prompt more than once, that's an app. You should
That's
do
right.
that.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And so that's sort of where I'm seeing our platform going, right? Um, because I'm worried about what our platform does exactly when we have a tool like this
Hmm.
in our hands right now. And I'm like, you know, we could make our own version, but this was millions of dollars of effort.
Hmm.
The user interface stuff can just drown you a lot. And so, what I found was this thing. Um,
Vercel.ai. Okay, not heard that. Okay, say hello. Uh, okay.
so we got, I just want to point out all the UI stuff we got, right? Like there's a lot of stuff going on, right? Then if I'm like, I forgot what, I can't be bothered typing, so I'm just gonna click. What's the weather in San Francisco? Okay. Now we got like this nice little
Right.
widget.
Okay. So
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now we got this is the cool bit. A state board.
That's yeah, yeah. That's quite cool. There's the one I've been using. I've not seen Vercel. .ai. I've been using Abacus AI, but effectively it does the same thing.
Right. So the reason why this is cool is that I have this entire framework is open sourced. And so
Okay.
they invite you to use it to make your own derivations off it,
Well,
right?
that's very kind of them.
And so the study I did today was to go through it and see how much modification we would have to do to make it ours. And honestly,
Mm-hmm.
it came down to supplying basically like uh, 5 database functions,
Huh.
and that's it. And so this is really my
That's
conundrum.
pretty light. That is quite lightweight.
Well, it is and it isn't. This is my conundrum that I come to you with every
Mm.
few months. I come to you with some kind of existential threat.
Oh,
But
God.
um, so they do really cool things, right? Like this is real time streaming into the state board, right? They got like
Yeah.
the stop button. They got like mobile friendly, like
Oh, they've done all the. Yeah, yeah,
right,
yeah. Nice.
all
Yeah.
the nasty, all the
Oh,
nasty.
okay.
is like, and I can cross it there, and it's got this thing, right? All the nasty they have done, and they seem somewhat committed to keeping it done as well, right?
Okay.
Okay,
Okay. Yeah.
and so I don't know this is a very messy way to ask a rather simple question, but I haven't had the time to make it simple. Um,
Okay.
if I use this open source framework, which effectively makes an AI call using not our blockchain,
Mm-hmm.
it will give us live streaming of the response, and then I can take that response and then commit it to the blockchain. So
And this. Sorry, go on. Go on. Finish your thought.
I don't know. That sounded like a helpful question to help me out of
Um,
my.
and this thread is ephemeral. I'm guessing.
No, it comes with a database to hook it up where you can put it in. You can put your threads in here, like so.
Um, the reason I was asking that is, for example, if we were to get a serious set of NAPs where GDPR, all that kind of good stuff is required.
Yeah,
Um, if and we've got we already got the architecture. You can have on-prem Git instance,
yeah.
and so that ticks that box. But if anything is being stored on here,
No, so how I would do it is all the storage and the persistence would be stored in Artifact. So the
right?
what's
Okay,
ephemeral is the real time streaming bit, and then once the streaming completes, then it commits it to Artifact. And so
fine.
the
Yep,
user
yep,
experience is great, but the thing I'm trying to get at is like now that Artifact is taking shape as this Naps running platform, it makes
yep.
less sense to even care. Like the UI stuff takes a lot of time, and it's
Okay.
fiddly and it's ugly, and
Well,
it's the thing that
here,
people complain about.
here's my view on it. Previously, we were talking about needing to do UI because you and I both hate UI, and there's tastes and all sorts of A/B tests and that sort of thing. If there is a source that we can fork and then contribute back, then that contribution should be recognized, of course, on Ledger. But let's not do it if we don't have to, because um, our value is in the knowledge architecture around JSON naps, definitions, gold, all that good stuff. Um,
Hang on. You just skipped over the most important part of the answer.
oh, okay,
All that good stuff. We are narrowing in on what it is that what we value, and we're seeing where the rest of the industry is getting to. We just saw a state board here, right?
yep,
In a thing, and you know we got GPT Canvas, which is a state board, you know. So state boards are here finally. Um, you know they were a nightmare for us to make. Thankfully, these kind people have suffered enough that they can, you know, they did all the look at the thing, right? The user
yeah.
experience, the UI is beautiful. Like that would take
It's
me,
it's yeah, it's the thing we've been putting off.
yeah, right? Because I was like, I don't see the point in me slaving over this thing,
I hate front end. Yeah,
right? I actually like front end, but I have
yeah,
discipline of some kind, some level, where I know that my value is not in front end.
yeah.
Um, and
Front end is messy. Um,
Yeah, it is, right?
uh,
And this project is actually large. Like the amount of code that's gone into it is huge. But what am I trying to get at? I'm trying to get at that you said
all the good stuff.
all the good stuff, yeah. But that's the
Yeah.
thing that we have to actually write down and stick to, because I'm starting to see that the good stuff whilst I could argue that, oh, blah blah blah, it's not blockchain, or it's never going to be, or it the front end being blockchain doesn't matter now.
No, no,
What
it doesn't.
matters, and this is where we need to reach agreement and have it in our we need to use the definitions to lay out a roadmap where you and I agree that this is the path and this is what we're doing, and we've used the definitions to generate that. So
Yeah, yeah,
so the thing that I think is important is the stuck loop.
yeah. Go
And I
on.
think that anything else that we can possibly just slot into what the industry's doing and leverage popular things to get, a nice enough response. We need to just compromise, down trail, do all sorts of things that are basically we need to just compromise everything we possibly can to get the stuck loop up. Because once the stuck loop
There you
is
go.
up, then we use the stuck loop to fix all the wrongs that we saw along the way.
Yes, I would agree with that. If I were to um, try and be a bit more tight on when I say the good stuff, the stuck loop is the heart of the dream catcher. The stuck loop requires the contribution and attribution.
Yep, which I might add,
Um,
in your ecosystem document, stuck loop was mentioned but not defined.
yeah, sorry about well, it was a scrappy first version, but yes, we can iterate. Um,
Yeah.
but the heart of it, the heart of the Dreamcatcher is innovation. It's always been the innovation engine. Innovation always comes from the trying to do something and you can't, and you really want to, and how much do you value doing that thing?
Well, that's funny that you say that because I don't think that we actually use the word innovation anywhere, actually.
Um, really? Oh, sure, that's innovation. But the whole point of this is an innovation factory.
Is it?
Um,
Oh, no,
yeah,
23
hold on.
occurrences. Oh, no,
Yeah,
no, 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 sorry, no, those are in transcripts. They're not in
not in the
folders.
definitions. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, well, we can.
Decentralized income. Income represents the platform's fundamental innovation, so that's not
Oh,
about
sure.
innovation.
Sure. Oh, you might not have brought this in, but let me find it. It doesn't matter. The in the remember Dreamcatcher ecosystem,
Yep.
um, at the very start, defined the ecosystem as shit. I might be lying.
I think you are,
You,
buddy.
you, you've got me. You got me thinking now. Did I actually mention the whole point of this fucking thing?
Ah, I think I got
Hold
you, my
on.
friend.
Hold on.
Innovation.
Right here, I've got it here.
Yeah, it's right up on screen
Uh,
there. Is a decentralized ecosystem designed to revolutionize collaborative
yep.
innovation, an integrated approach to innovation. Innovation, innovation. I would like to dispute with you
Mm-hmm.
that our primary purpose is actually not innovation.
Ooh. Okay. All right. All right. Right.
So,
Crack knuckles. Let's go for it.
here
Let's
we
go
go.
for
Have
it.
you seen those
Right.
memes of like people playing the slap game, or like it's like professional slapping? Um, so innovation is a side effect of decentralized income.
Give me 2 secs. Let me think about that. Innovation is side
Oh, the
effect of
slap was hard.
decentralized income. It's a side effect of decentralized. I would dispute that weakly.
Weekly,
In that decentralized income is an incentive for innovation.
right? It's our primary incentive for innovation, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
therefore, it's the thing that we got to try and get happening, because if we want innovation, you can't do innovation directly. You need to incentivize innovation because it's about the network doing it. And so, therefore, the most important thing for us to shoot for is to enable decentralized income.
I think you're right. Although there are different formulations, um, uh, but none of them are going to make money. So, for example, I could uh, income you could replace with brownie points or replace with God likes you tokens. Um,
I could do with some of those.
but it's the recording of the who gets what for doing what, like cause and effect. You do this, what
No,
happens?
I think you
Why
might have
would you?
drifted there, because now you're not even talking about decentralized income.
Well, no, I'm focusing on income as the word, but
You're just talking about recording.
I was, yeah, no. What I'm saying is, um, income implies uh, some kind of value exchange. It doesn't need to. Remember, for example, it could be recognition.
Is this on point of figuring out what our primary goal is, to tighten up what?
No, not at all.
Okay,
This is one of these times that I go down a rabbit hole.
okay.
Um, income is everyone knows what income is. I think it can be wider than that, but let's go with income because uh, income implies some kind of cash that transfers hands, but there's nothing in the Dreamcatcher that actually implies the need for cash.
Sorry, what?
Yeah. Remember we were talking about
Hang on. So,
giving out
yeah, tell me,
medals.
decentralized income. So the whole point to me is value creation.
One second. Sorry, something weird happened there. Sorry, go on. And health check on this one. This is definitely a rabbit hole that we don't need to go
Okay, well,
down because
let's
I basically agree. I basically agree.
yeah, okay,
But
basically agree is all I need.
yeah, it's wider. Well, the possibilities are wider, but income is one very strong instance that people get their head around.
Because all I'm trying to get at is that we've ended up in a position where we started so early down the AI path that a lot of what we needed wasn't present, like state boards and the ease of
Yeah,
making a chat interface and all that. And so we had to make it ourselves. And
yeah,
then most of our effort has been on basically concluding with the reasoner workbench. So learning about how the LLMs work, what their shortcomings are, how we can get them to do what we want.
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
And we've sort of been pretty faithful to the idea that we don't insist on a particular implementation, but we know for a fact that there's a really good use case in terms of the Dreamcatcher, as fuzzy as it was at the time. And that's what we were going to apply these LLMs for, and we had to build a lot of the stuff out.
yeah,
Fast forward 1 year, because I remember it was a year ago that I was in your fine country, because it was the coldest I've ever been in my life.
yeah, yeah. That's why my headset keeps on misting up.
Yeah, that was.
I'm back there.
But next time I'm ready. I got a bunch of like battery powered heated clothing, and I'm gonna survive. I'm gonna survive.
You complete what this.
Yeah.
I remember it. And we've still got, I think, that coat. I think you bought 50%
If we,
share in that coat.
I did, and if we ever make it big, I'm gonna have that thing lined with lithium batteries and heaters, and it's gonna be the smartest coat on the planet. Now, listen. So, fast forward a year, and there's
Uh,
all these great other tools that are happening, and a lot of the things that we foresaw coming have happened. that's great. It means that we're on the right track, but we need to re-evaluate what we can lean on in the world to make our jobs a lot easier. But the
So,
side
yep.
effect of that is, what is it we're offering from that point on? Because if I use this front end here, um, which I really do think, I'll study it a bit more and I'll give you some time to have a poke at it so that you can sort of say what it's missing or things like that. But somewhere out there, there'll be, if it's not this, there'll be something that we can leverage to use as our front end, and then that leaves us with this blockchain in the back end. The blockchain is expensive in terms of code. It's expensive because it takes time, it's very precise, it's very brittle, it's got all these things, right? But it's not, everyone knows that a blockchain is valuable if you get it right. But what it comes down to is the use case. And so we need to be explicitly clear what we're trying to use the NAPS platform for, because even the NAPS are now not strictly blockchain. They are, you could just do them with a traditional database, and who cares about saving your application state? But it's a good fit for blockchain. We have a blockchain. We can do it in a blockchain. What does the blockchain do? That's what we need to answer.
Okay. Can I take maybe a slightly circuitous route and answer some of your earlier questions, and then we'll come back to the blockchain.
Okay.
We necessarily, because there's only two of us, have to rely on utilizing others' innovations and functions,
Yes.
of which this is just one. I see no difference between using vercel than using OpenAI. It's a similar kind of thing. It is
Okay.
work done by others that are available to us.
Yep.
So on that piece, absolutely happy. In fact, delighted that we don't have to do that because it's a pain in the arse.
Okay.
Um,
All right. So
okay,
basically,
so
I'll go ahead and switch over to this for the.
yeah.
Yeah.
And in fact, we should be ready to be agnostic if someone other than Vercel does a better thing.
Yeah. But so
We should just
what this changes then is it removes the need for me to make an API, because I was actually maintaining a browser side little piece of, well, not little, actually it was quite a complex piece of code that sat on the browser and interacted with Deno deploy to control the blockchain and pull in the information and all that. I can reduce a lot of that by using this, which means that the blockchain doesn't have a browser side component as much, but it leaves me feeling a bit dangling, like, what was the point of this again? Like, I know that's more extreme than I want to actually than I actually feel, but that's the direction I'm like,
it's
what
like,
is the
what do we
point of
do?
this?
What do we do here? Yeah, I
Yeah,
guess
yeah,
essentially.
because you could just, I mean, all around us, there's all these like maggots and kids and everyone raising large amounts of cash to basically build traditional apps with AI sprinkled on top, and now with a bit of Bitcoin introduced in the stir again, right? All this stuff.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't care about that, because that doesn't really help the dream catcher, because you can't bloody well trust it.
Okay, so we've basically do it. It's very rarely I'm so succinct, but yeah, do it. And
I should get a fucking medallion every time I freaking hear that. But
and the only thing I would say is
what's the
what
point of the blockchain? What is what's artifact
right.
for again?
So the point of the blockchain really comes down to the typical value that people are looking for. Now, not everyone needs a blockchain. In fact, a vast majority don't. But to do real good stuff, where the well, I'll give you one instance. In order to utilize the stuck loop, it has to have a blockchain.
In order
If
to
you,
utilize the stuck loop, it has to have a blockchain. Why?
because the stuck involves a whole bunch of people coming in and interacting permissionless on it. They're simply not going to do that unless you have a contribution ledger.
Yep.
Why would you?
Okay. So does that mean then that the entire point is to get the stuck loop going, even if it's just getting it going as a pure API call? Like the way
Yeah,
I'm looking at the blockchain now and the part that I have to build is that it really comes down to being a sort of a command line thing where you use the front end I just showed you to provide all the fancy stuff, but on the back end it's just text and API calls
yeah, absolutely.
going
This,
into
this,
this blockchain
this
thing.
is, yeah. All the thinking that we've done since October 16th last year, um, well, actually going back 7 years, it's all been about, and it's an interesting thing you pick up on innovation. The stuck loop um, makes no sense unless you consider why you care about stucks. Maybe just go, oh, I can't do that. I'm just going to wander off and never be able to do that. Um, the innovation is an emergent property of solving a stuck into a nap. And so innovation is a second order thing. The
Right.
stuck
So
is the first order.
innovation is what is occurred. It's not something that's done directly.
Right. It's a way of describing moving us, identifying a stuck, and then moving that stuck into a nap.
Right. Okay. So in the most humble way I can manage, the blockchain itself doesn't even matter. What matters is the stuck loop running with an immutable record of contribution.
Yes, and actually, the stuck loop again is the kind of fundamental. If you had a massively trusted bunch of guys with pen and paper, it would still work.
Right. In fact, the stuck loop is kind of what capitalism does anyway, but we're simply saying that we have a flawless human by way of, or flawless human labor pool of a
Yeah,
bunch of clerks who
or
can
we've automated. Yeah,
automate capitalism, basically.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay. And so that's actually the thing that we want to deliver to the world
yep,
because that would unlock a lot of value around the
yeah.
place, right?
And I would also extend that to the other things that we've come up with. So the paradigm of using definitions we are finding very useful.
Yep.
The JSON format and naps we are
Yep.
finding very useful.
Yep.
Um, there may be other ways of doing it, but the stuck loop remains.
The stuck loop remains. Yes, there is no other way to do that. That is the
Yeah, there's
glorious
shitty
cycle.
ways, and there are ways where the stuck loop aligns incentives. There are
Right.
ways to accelerate it, but the stuck
Right.
loop
Right. Right. That's
is the
basically
thing.
it's basically evolution. Like it's not anything fancy or new. It's just the
That's a good way of putting it, actually. Yeah,
right.
because
It's
evolution
just the
is
machinery of
Jordan.
improvement.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
the
And
thing that
we just made a globally networked AI
right,
enhanced version
right.
of it, but
I
it's
know
the
we are
same
going
thing.
with the evolution thing, so I will not repeat it.
Okay,
because I
great. Thank you.
listened to our last conversation. But yes, yes,
Awesome. Okay, great. Great.
yeah,
Um, so what that means is then that I should ditch all the UI stuff, just use this UI, and even start to ditch things that I had held as sacred to being blockchainy, like the authentication of the user. I should maybe not even store the authentication records on blockchain and just simply store them in the database that the starter kit here provides.
yeah. You
Because
kind of want to give a starter for 10, but it's not holy. It's not core.
nah, and then so what I can actually do is just use the stuff that they've already provided that works. Yes, it's a Postgres database, who cares? It's not a blockchain. We don't care about the blockchain for everything, is what I'm trying to adjust my mind to thinking. It's that we need to desperately just get it working for only the stuck loop. Only the stuck loop. And then we can use that stuck loop to figure out how to make the authentication database be on chain. We can think about how to bring
Yeah,
in Ethereum wallets and all that, right? But if we just,
yeah,
I think I can see the sniper shot, I guess, to like thread the needle of like, here's the stuck loop and here's it working. Like, I mean, have you ever seen anyone like have you ever seen anyone generate as much text as what I just generated in the last
yeah.
right?
But the thing is though, it is so easy to generate text now that um, everyone has got a bit of a superpower, but everyone's using it in either themselves or a few people sharing. You put in one sentence of text and you get 1,000 words out, which is a problem, and so on. But really, the reason the stuck loop is central is because I want an outcome and I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Now
um so where I was
the
trying to go with that is that like the amount of work it's possible to do now with tools that weren't us, and then it's like, well, what do we
Well, can I just
yeah,
sorry,
sure,
can I just
sure, sure,
finish the thought because
sure,
I was
sure.
going down. So stuck. My assertion is the stuck is the nugget. Um, our methods around or paradigms around definitions and naps and so on um, are a way of making stuck work. The
So naps and reasoning are two things that we came up with to enable the automated stuck loop.
Yeah, yeah, and it can be used for other stuff as well.
No, definitely.
Yeah, the chain really is there as a surrogate for um, trust because stuck, um, unless you're going to just throw it out there, uh, needs some way of saying who did what in order to get your distributed income. So without the chain or without some kind of trusted thing, you don't get distributed income, but it still comes down to stocks because stocks are it's almost like the prerequisite to work.
Right, the other task at hand.
Yeah. So
So where does this leave us then?
the definitions, the JSON formats, the NAP formats, everything else, I don't think is particularly defensible in that maybe there's a better way, but also the idea, now we've come up with it, anyone could copy and so on. But the stuck loop is the important thing, and providing a platform that allows the stuck loop to have something that is trusted whether it's immutable or whether it's 1,000 guys writing down stuff on paper that you trust, doesn't actually change the stuck loop. Like I've tried to do something, I can't do it. I value that.
Okay. Let's just if you'll allow me a short deviation.
Uh huh.
I'm still focusing on the stuck loop, but what I want to talk about is how to. The stuck loop is happening all around us. The stuck loop is why the trees are shaped like cones, why the mountains droop downwards,
Yeah.
why the
Yeah.
Galapagos Islands have different animals on them slightly.
Yeah.
That's the stuck loop. Um, and so, what I wanted to try and map out is how is the stuck loop being applied? How are all the. I believe that you can describe all of the possible parameters of the generalized stuck loop,
Uh huh.
and that you could then fill in those parameters and it would give you each particular stuck loop, like the evolutionary stuck loop. It would give you
Oh,
the
yeah, yeah, yeah.
capitalist stuck loop, the communist stuck loop, the socialist
Um,
stuck loop, the fascist stuck loop, the
that's
the
interesting.
Viking
That's
stuck loop,
interesting
the
because
Romans.
the stuck itself doesn't care how it gets solved.
Stuck is
Um,
a stuck is a
the
stuck throughout all time, and it's not just
Yeah,
for humans, it's for animals, it's for nature.
right. I'm on the
It's
Galapagos Islands. I'm
Yeah,
a turtle
as
and
a
a can.
penguin, I
Yeah,
want to catch fish so that I can blah blah blah.
I
Like you could,
yeah
right?
yeah.
It's the
And the
stuck loop.
evolution moves stucks to a whole bunch of genetic variations, and many fail.
Right. And nature does it by just brute forcing, by basically shaking the box,
Yeah.
and then eventually but the key aspect I want to highlight here is that there is always an incentive mechanism. I think it's often called the reward function, which is a
Oh yeah.
way
Oh
to,
yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right? And it's a way of attributing to contribution. There's something that you've seen that joke about two young fish swimming past, and the old fish is like, "How's the water?" And they're like, "What's water?"
Most of her. Yeah.
Right? But there is the most, the closest thing that I can think of to that little cartoon that we are all currently trapped in and are always trapped in is the immutability of existence itself. I don't think we ever really stop and just wonder at the sheer perfectness of the unchangeability of what has happened. Like it is
I think
a
you're onto something here, man.
hundred. It
I
is
think you're onto something.
absolute immutability. It
Yeah,
right.
because history, the second law of thermodynamics, arrow of time, all that kind of thing.
All that stuff, and it's the permanence of it, the finality of it is never ever really considered because we live our lives, because our lives are made of many cycles that repeat over and over, because you get to have the same turn again slightly different. It masks the fact that what has gone is forever, and it makes you feel like things are not permanent. But there is something permanent, and that's everything that has been, and it is so permanent.
Yeah, the permanence is continuity. It's
Yeah,
the this,
yeah,
then that, then that,
yeah,
then that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And that is why I religiously believe that blockchains are the way of computing, because they are the only programming paradigm that model the true state of the world where the history is unchangeable, and that they also allow us to incorporate different views on the past, because whilst the past is perfectly immutable, it is also unknowable. You cannot completely know it. You can only see versions of it,
I agree, and
right?
the value of the naps are in its usage. The one thing it adds, though, over evolution is, example, I was listening to a podcast about a bunch of guys talking about whether we can get woolly mammoths back in order to improve the ecosystem up in the tundra. Um, it's like, well, no, we can't because evolution just has current state. However, blockchain, you can roll back and fork, get your woolly mammoth, and then stick it into the
Yeah,
current
yeah.
state.
So the blockchains are still bound by the laws of nature, which is that you can only model true immutability. There is only one form of immutability, and that is the past. And a blockchain exists in the present, and you're trying to basically use it to
Yes.
model the past, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
so anyway, all those sort of, I mean, you could debate that, shit for years, but the point I'm trying to make ultimately is that there is a way to define a generalized stuck loop. It has a reward function. It has a contribution record just simply by how the universe works. Um, and it has an attribution function, which is that reward function. And so what we can do is take like corporate models, and we can say that the corporate model of stuck loop is
Hmm.
these parameters, and then if we uh, provide that equation with a certain amount of cycles or runs or scale and interactions, we'll get some metrics that score it like X. And what I'm trying to get at is just like you can plot these different types of stuck loop running with different parameters and graph them, just like you can model and capture different types of heat engine, and you can end up with the Carnot cycle, as because everywhere you plotted them you're like, oh look, nothing goes beyond this, and then it sort of hints that there's this optimum. Just like we can do that, I wholeheartedly believe that we can model the Dreamcatcher stuck loop and say that it is it's the ultimate efficiency, and the only sort of losses away from the true Carnot cycle that we should suffer are entropy related losses, like costs energy to burn AI tokens, has latency because of the speed of light. Like we should be able to say that,
Yes.
right? That we can prove that this is the optimum way to run a stuck loop. End of story, right? And then there's all these other stuck loops that we can study and say the Soviet Union collapsed because the stuck loop had these flaws. America's destined for collapse because its stuck loop has these
And
flaws.
and,
Blah
and
blah.
everything else we've been talking about is derivative from that core that you just said about. So, in evolution, we've got this lovely trees over there in the islands and all that kind of thing. Those that is the current state. The ledger is how did we get to a tree? I mean, why a tree? Why not lots of ferns? I don't know.
Mm.
Um, but the that is the state. Uh, and how did we get to that state? It was by some random thing, a stuck,
Yeah.
was
Okay. So
presented and was solved. But then it's proven against, a wider environment that is that
okay.
the
In the
benefit.
in the
Sorry.
nicest possible way, are you building up to something new, or are you just repeating
I
out?
am. The thing I'm building up to is where the stuck loop is actually superior to evolution, in that, and this is a second order thing, you can go back and model saying 15,000 years ago we had mammoths. How about we brought mammoths back? Because we've got the state there, we've got everything that's happened afterwards. Let's fork that and let's model it now, and maybe that's a good thing or not to do. It's that um, the fact that you can roll back or you can go back in time and then fork and then merge makes it actually superior to evolution because evolution can only deal with
No, I disagree with you there, but I don't think that my disagreement will
Okay, all right. I'm
add to
quite
anything.
excited, but I'll develop this one. But basically, yes.
Yeah, what it's either way, what it's starting to point to is that there is some sort of a pure formulaic expression that we can say that this is how the stuck loop for the Dreamcatcher works, and then from there we go on to implement it. And I think
Yeah,
that all I'm getting at is saying that even if I made the stuck loop work with just like crappy little API calls to some shonky little naps, that's superior.
yeah,
Like that,
yeah.
right?
Couldn't agree more.
Right,
Anything else other than the stuck loop is irrelevant
right.
because the
And so
stuck loop
I
is the
should
core.
ditch every other thing that I've been trying to do. Like I was trying to get authentication working on chain because I felt that the blockchain was essential, and if I have non-blockchain stuff, it
Well,
will complicate it.
take those guys with the state board.
Mm.
Um, they've done lots of work.
Yeah, a lot.
They're on the surface of the world like we are, and it's like they're offering it. It's like, well, let's use it
Yeah,
and let's record that contribution, and we're going to use it.
I yeah. Tragically, I don't even care at this point. I'm like, we will have to figure out who we owe later. We
Oh
need
yeah,
to
no,
get
that's
running.
attribution. But the fact that we're using it, the very fact that we're talking right now on a video call is we're recording the fact that
Yeah. Like I'm not.
yeah,
Like it's the fork that I made forks from their Git branch, so the contribution trail is clear there.
yeah,
Okay, so I guess I'm grasping at rules here to ditch unnecessary things and making sure I don't throw the proverbial baby out with the bathwater. So one of the rules is I think that I should use an existing technology provided it takes less effort to use it than the blockchain stuff does. And so
yes,
long as I
and
can keep the separation between the blockchain land and this other land very clear.
yes, and the other thing is anytime you use a new technology, and it probably won't, but we need to be aware of does it alter the stuck loop? It should not ever alter the stuck loop, which leads us to the next question about we need to define the stuck loop very carefully because we should be referring back everything, every new third party stuff that we bring in. Um, it probably won't, but we need to be aware if the stuck loop is the golden nugget, we need to protect that golden nugget and be very, very careful if we change that. Now, none of this will. I mean, that's just a UI, right?
Yeah,
Um,
like the stuck loop actually is the it's like the arc reactor of Iron Man. Like it's the thing that we need to fortify and die in a
yeah,
ditch over. All this other stuff actually there's probably a
yeah.
lot of
That's
stuff I can dump that isn't that.
oh, it's just duplication, right? You're about to duplicate what these guys have probably got more money and more time and more and care more about.
Yeah, they're
Uh,
rich. They're super
yeah,
rich.
so that to do it again makes no sense. Duplication is,
Yep, makes
nonsense.
no sense.
So wherever anything we're doing is truly unique and nobody else is doing it, then we need to do that. Now, we've got Git, we've got MySQL, we've got these guys, there's a number of things we can plug in. We shouldn't be recreating anything.
Yep, okay. Um all right, I'll go through and see what else I can strip out and then try and make Artifact be purely API based and make it run naps
Yep. And
because
on naps, naps and the JSON and the definitions, um, as far as our meat brains can figure out, are really powerful. Maybe there's a better way, and so on. But none of those alter the idea of
well,
identification of
yeah,
stucks.
there's a relationship though between having the stuck loop and having units of work. Like in realms where there's no unit of a finished thing, it's harder to apply the stuck loop because you can't measure or you it's not a discrete environment. It's a continuous environment. Like nature doesn't have the concept of naps. There's no unit of completed reward. There's no, like there's no thing that
Oh
occurred.
yes, yes, there is. There's a genome. Um, that is an app.
Like when
Yes.
when there's offspring, that's the
Yeah.
unit.
Yeah. The genome changes, and you're not dead. And you're not dead because the stuck was I can't reach this fruit off this tree. I need a longer neck.
Right, and so
And
your child has slightly improved
yeah,
because you didn't die because your neck was ever so slightly longer.
yeah.
Okay, that's okay. I agree with you. I don't know how that helps me in my current predicament.
Well, I
But
think your
I
main
do agree
I
with
think
you.
your main question we've got quite deep into this, but it's quite interesting, and I'll put that on the back burner and think about it. But I think your analogy to evolution is really productive.
Right.
But
Yeah, well
let's
it's
not go
just
into it
it's
now.
just saying that the stuck loop isn't new. The stuck loop is life really. And
Yeah.
we've just found a way that we can spot the Carnot cycle equivalent, which is like
Right.
there's an that for any given environment there is an optimum stuck loop rate for any given
Yes.
environment. And we're saying that now that we have LLMs, the stuck loop rate should go massively up. And what's more, given our current constraints in this universe, we can see that the stuck loop we can calculate the maximum stuck loop rate. And everything that we're doing that is less than that maximum is failure. We should be running at max stucks.
Yes, and I'll spare you the thoughts that I've got in this, and I'll write them down. Uh, but I think this is a really productive seam of
Right.
goals
Okay.
we've reached here. There's
Okay.
a lot in there.
Okay. So
But
how does my job change then?
your job changes in that anything that anyone else has done, don't do it. Just use theirs.
Just use it provided that the combination doesn't cost more than doing it ourselves.
Yep, yep. And
Okay. Don't be
uh,
bashful using traditional databases and other such fun things because they're there, they work, they're secure, blah, blah, blah. Just
right,
use it and get
because
to the stuck loop.
exactly, and if you allow me, the analogy on evolution, the use of that is the environment, as in if someone really wants GDPR, right to be forgotten, and so on. Okay, so you're going to need to have a certain type of data storage. If they do not give a shit, you have a different type of data storage. None
Yeah,
of that
okay.
touches
Yeah,
stuck.
yeah. And then, okay. Well, I think the strategy we're applying is that get any version working, any version, the simplest version at all of the stuck loop, and then use that stuck loop to make more specific implementations as required as the stucks become
Right,
apparent.
and remember, so I'm getting a lot of incoming from like government and health and that sort of thing. And they all require certain properties, like right to be forgotten,
Right.
authentication, that sort of thing. But that that is not that is a stuck. It's like
Yeah, that's
but
the,
that,
that's the stuck.
yeah,
But they what they really want, well, what we think they really want is the stuck loop functioning in a rapid way.
right, right. So what we want is someone coming up with, okay, I want to do a health app, blah, 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 all that kind of thing. Okay, you've defined a stuck.
Yeah,
What are you going to do? Now, previously, old traditional way, I'm not going to go over it again, but you know the pain. Um, and what we're saying is here is a way in the stuck loop um, of getting it solved. Um, and then in solving that, there's a second order here, isn't there, of emergent properties, insofar as if you can get it solved by uh, permissionless work through attribution, incentivized through attribution, that's that's brilliant. You're probably going to get it faster. You don't have to worry about shares, that sort of thing. But it doesn't change the stuck loop.
yep, that's right. That's right. Okay, all right. Well, this is I think that's given me what I need. I actually need to dump a ton of stuff and just get the stuck loop going on chain, and nothing else needs to be on chain.
It's dedupe. Um, it's like if someone else has done it,
Okay.
use it.
Okie dokie.
And then there's now, so the stuck loop is the nugget. Um, then we are the first ones to turn up and use the stuck loop. We should start using the stuck loop for solving things like the definitions, uh, the definitions improvement loop, for example, which is not that is a stuck. It's like okay, um, here we have a render of that. That is a way of solving a stuck. So we should be as quickly as possible using stuck. The stuck is actually a really small unit. I'm not entirely sure how to express it in terms of. I mean, how do you express it? It's almost like a universal, isn't it? Is it a nap itself? But you could express it other ways. I don't know. Maybe we should just not care too much about that and just create it as a nap. And if there's a better way, it will come up.
Yep. Um, yep. We just got to make the first version and then use the stuck loop on itself. So part of that consequence, and this is where it's going to cost you, not me, is that I think we need to bring back the concept of threads. Like, see how I can have a thread here?
Mm-hmm.
It's actually quite a lot of work to deal with not threads, right?
Okay,
So
I
if
don't
I
know
just,
why, but yeah, okay. Well,
you do
I'm not
know
skilled in
why.
the art enough. No, no, it's not that I disagree with you. I'm just not skilled enough to understand that.
Well, like, if we didn't have those threads there, right,
Mm-hmm.
we'd have, you'd browse your threads here, like, show me all my threads, right? That's that
Mm-hmm.
issue. And so what I'm saying is that I should bring up this, I'll just give us threads, which we sort of had right now, but you and I had argued that the 3 box UI was all we need. This little chat bar is an extra box.
Actually, if you go back to cursor, that's the files. So imagine you just dump your thread into a file.
Nah, the
You
I
with me?
think that the files are actually, the files are a stateboard view, because the threads are something else. Because the threads, even in cursor, the threads are here. These are the threads, right? They are not the files. They are different.
Yeah, but by files, maybe they're not. Sorry, can you flip back and I'll try and explain
Cursor,
myself a bit
yeah.
more eloquently. So we've got a bunch of files down there, which are the
These
end
files,
product. Yeah.
the
So
definitions and
that's
stuff. Yeah.
yeah. Goal definitions is a good way of doing it. So these are goal definitions. That is the topic.
Mm-hmm.
Um, now in that all chats,
Mm-hmm.
those are stored somewhere,
Yep.
probably in files, but they have a different
Purpose.
purpose than the gold. You're not
Yes.
talking about the threads, but what you want to be able to do is to say, for example, right, one day ago I was talking about dashboard
You are you
metrics.
simply gonna say that we should be able to treat our? Oh, I'm
Go,
sorry.
go.
I hit the lock button on my keyboard and shut myself out of the computer. How useful. How useful. Um, there we go. We're back. Okay, so here's what I propose then.
Uh-huh.
These threads will be available as files, and you can talk about them in the chat. But I'll keep this interface here because
Mm.
it's more effort to take it out. I think that people have become accustomed to having their threads along the side, and this is really grasping at straws, but if you notice, there's only ever 3 boxes on the screen. When I
Mm.
hit the state-board, the thread view goes away and I can't get to it until I exit from the state-board. So in that sense, I could argue that the threads are a form of state-board view. Maybe.
Uh,
Uh,
oh,
yeah,
yeah, no, yes,
maybe.
yes. No,
Sort
no,
of.
I think you're right
Sort
because
of.
I was thinking about Stateboard in terms of presentation of widgets.
Right. But
Um,
this is a
but
form of that, right?
it's
Sort of.
state,
It's
you know,
something. Nah.
drafting an essay on whatever it was.
Look, the whole thing
Is
makes me uncomfortable, but that's probably the jarring thing to you. I think everyone else in the world quite likes their list of threads, even though they're stupid.
yeah, but
But
the can I make a quick argument for why I'm right and the rest of the world is wrong?
sure.
Okay, now let me give it a go at this. This is going to be pretty rough. Um, remember the months ago I was talking about doing a prompt saying it's coming up to Christmas. I need to buy presents. I can't remember what I brought last year.
Yep, I remember that.
There's a whole bunch of threads there. Right, let's talk about that. So what that's doing is effectively is going through all these threads and saying, "Did you talk about Christmas? Christmas, Christmas, yes,
Yeah,
yes."
so under the hood, all those
Building it
threads
all.
will
Yep,
appear as files and they will
yep,
be reasonable about, just like you saw me doing with the goal
exactly.
definition. Yep.
It's a bit like
Okay.
the
Okay, so that's
at
cool. No,
Golden.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's gonna
yeah.
be there. Don't worry about that.
Okay.
Okay. And so you're okay if I leave this? I'll leave this UI in there, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Well, the other thing is in this UI, if you wanted to do what you're doing in Cursor, which is like only consider at Golden.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I should put
Um,
in here, right? Like is like at chats
yeah.
from this week or something like
Yeah.
that, right?
Right. And you can put that into the thread saying, show me everything I said over the last week.
Yeah, that's right.
It's like,
That's right. That's
okay.
right. That's right. That's right.
Or show me all the files in Golden.
Yep. You should be able to do it all.
And
Okay.
then you can go at. But the previous chatbot is similar, except they don't have a specific name. So you talk about drafting an essay on Silicon Valley. You could what say is when did I talk about the evolution and impact of Silicon Valley? And you go, oh,
Right,
it was
and then
this
that
this
would
thread,
trigger off a bunch of nap
and then
calls that would go through and grind through all your files, which includes the chat history,
yep,
and
and
then
then it was at drafting an essay on Silicon Valley.
yeah,
has
Okie
its
dokie.
context.
Okie dokie.
Now, what the benefit of that is, that reduces the threads to the same as files.
Yep.
But the files, you can browse through and so on. But the threads, uh, the you don't name a thread. You shouldn't have to name a thread, but you want to be able to invoke a thread or even multiple threads as an at
Yeah, you
Christmas
want to
last
read it
year.
in as a file, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, next topic, this button. This specifies bots. Now, in Cursor, we have, oh dear, we have a similar
I
functionality
think I know
where
where I think you're gonna. I
you
know
can
where you're
click
gonna
on
go here.
this, right?
Yeah, you shouldn't have to do that. You shouldn't have to do that.
Yeah, you shouldn't
Um,
have to fucking be born into a world that didn't have an AI powered stuck loop in place, and yet here we are. So, my point is, what am I gonna? What would you need some way to select bots because we don't have that skill yet, right?
right.
So,
In the
what is it?
absence of that, then what you're doing is you're moving a cognitive load from AI to the human, who's maybe doesn't know what Claude means. Maybe Claude is the guy,
Yeah, so we leave it.
down the
We
road
leave
is
it
doing
at
their hair.
default because you could have used Cursor successfully without changing any of the defaults, and you'd be pretty happy.
Yeah.
Yep.
The pre-selection without prompting of an LLM, it really comes down to optimization,
We'll
whether it's
we'll pick it.
optimization of
Okay.
the result or tokens.
Well, the question I'm trying to ask you is that we have this notion of naps that we used to call agents that we learned using the switchboard. Some of us like to switch to different ones. Should this drop down be purely a selection of model, or should it be a selection of naps, or should it be some kind of hybrid where I can select some core naps and then I can use those naps to modify the config that gives me other drop downs? Because I might want the comical nap or the cynical Scotsman nap.
Um,
Right? This feels like it should
I
be agents that I can choose
well,
from here.
inside the NAP, there is the ability to choose models, right?
Well, if you allow it, yeah.
So now I'm going to channel the worst possible test case.
Yep.
My mum,
Oh dear.
who would not know GDP from AOI or anything. Um,
That's fine.
uh,
So all we'll do is we'll choose reasonable defaults, and then every time she hits new, she'll get reset back to a default. And you have to be kind of good at the system to configure your default to be different. Done.
I think so. I
Yeah.
think so.
Okay.
And for the more advanced users, because very quickly when we had the model switcher, it got a bit irritating.
Yeah, today.
And
Okay,
so
so we'll
for
ditch
advanced
that. We'll
users,
ditch that because
yeah,
that pissed me off too. But
yeah.
yeah, one bot
Or
is coming, but it's not here now.
well, one bot is actually a smart filter on every new LLM model that comes out, and they're going to be coming out probably at an increasing race. Um, Different models from different providers. That list could get very long. The
I
user
think
doesn't
this
care.
list needs to be actually a nap, where the specific nap is configured with a specific model. We'll pick some base ones because we want to control the prompting that you get by default as your entrance into the system. And then as you get more advanced, you can decide to manually switch between naps. You can browse the whole library and add some to the short list, blah, 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 right?
Sort of. If I could reframe that slightly, I think we're on the same lines. Um, Choosing your model is like an advanced user usage that will avoid them getting really pissed off. But the naps know what models they need to
Yeah, yeah,
do the
yeah,
thing. And
yeah.
so you call the naps and they'll choose the model.
They then that's yeah, that's the point. The naps are supposed to choose the model. Okay. So, the hard question to ask. Um,
Oh, these ones were easy
these were
to
the
this
easy
point.
ones. These were the easy ones because they were all here. Like they
Uh,
were questions about what's here. The hard question is what's not here. What what can you think of that isn't here that we will need to implement the stuck loop?
right, that's a very precise question. Give me
Thinking time is
silence.
fine, buddy.
Yeah, I'm gonna be
Some
silent
hold
while I
music?
think about
Can
this.
some hold music?
Yeah, don't sing though, please
Oh.
don't. Shouldn't the it be in thread? If you've asked something that can't be done, some response saying, "We can't do that. Would you like to put some money against that?" And we'll tell you when it's done. If not, we'll record that you fact that you've done that, and we'll tell you if anyone solves it. It's if the stuck loop feels like at the user level, at the consumer level, it is just in thread. It's like, I'm sorry, I can't do that, Dave. But adding on, not only of that, I've created a stuck. Uh, do you want to put some money against this? If not, that's fine. We'll tell you when it's done, and then it's done. So that's on the consumer level. So at the consumer level, I think
So
it should be
in
in
the
thread.
so am I think that the stuck looks like one of these, right? You'd be drafting a stuck and you'd be chatting about it.
Oh yes, but I think that should be optional.
What?
So say if I said, can I have a unified theory of quantum mechanics and general relativity? And you go, I'm sorry, we can't do that. Would you like to put some money against that? If not, we'll create a stuck and we'll let you know when it's done. Or you could give a bit more information to help the exactly what you mean by.
No, I still don't get
So,
it. So one of the ideas I had is see how you got these upvote, downvote buttons.
mhm.
Downvote could be the creation of a stuck.
Yeah, but that's missing out what you're just saying, which I think is valuable,
Oh,
which is then going into a screen, which is okay.
this screen.
Yeah, give me more information about the stuck. What actually you're doing? So you try to do something, but what's missing out is why you tried to do that, what your expected outcomes are, um, the context in which you're doing it in. That's probably it, actually.
So that would basically trigger off a nap that would you would start chatting with that
Yeah,
would help
it's
you
like
create the stuck, right?
it's like you've tried to do something, um, and the base is we've noted it, um, but then
Ah, right. So
optionally
so what
you
you're
can
getting
go
at
in
is
and get more.
how what does the stuck loop look like in first arrival? And it looks like you're doing some stuff and then it's not even we detect that it broke. It's like you either hit the downvote or you say something negative like that's bad and then
Yeah,
the stuck
it's
creator
like
kicks in,
it's like tell me why that's bad.
right? And then that helps you produce a document which represents the first stuck,
Yeah,
and then it
yeah,
contains within it some context, a way to recreate it. It lets you edit. Like we build out how fancy this UI gets because we can add context. You can check the history to make sure that uh, no private information came in.
yeah.
It can
And
all those things, right?
if we're going to get fancy about it, you could also look, in vector space style stucks that are similar and say,
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah,
this
yeah,
other guy had a similar
yeah.
stuck.
Because
And you go,
the stuck actually is a widget that shows up here and will have extra intelligence capabilities like vector search, looking for other
yeah,
stucks,
yeah,
tallying up the money that's been staked against it,
right.
walking you through the ability to stake against the stuck, those kinds
Yeah,
of things, right?
because the
Okay,
first
so
time you do it, you're
that's what I'm
asking for something. Yeah, it's really it's a very small input, and it's like no, can't do that.
okay, so
And
that's
then
what I'm going to
yeah,
deliver using. It's going to look like this, and I'm going to
hmm
deliver a stuck loop that can be used to um, create stucks, and then we'll just iterate on what the
yeah. I mean,
functionality of
it's
that stuck loop
actually
is using the
that's quite.
stuck loop.
This screen is quite an interesting one. So see that what is the weather? Help me draft an essay.
Yeah.
You could say something like, "Tell me more about what you're trying to do," or
Yep.
uh, "Who else has had this problem?"
Right.
Um, and that generates the wealth of information that we can then condense down and
Yep.
then offer it as a real stuck to guys who can solve it. Um, it's well, I guess I guess it's just a form of
Okay. Well, that look that sounds like a
yeah,
deliverable stuck loop right there.
yeah.
Okay, so that's.
It's market research, really. It's, it's like,
Oh, I want to
you,
shoot you. Um,
but
but
it's kind of
yeah, kind of right. And then so we get the very first crusty version of the stuck loop going, and then we use that to improve the stuck loop experience, still
yeah,
staying focused on the stuck loop, and then we can use it to do non-stuck loop things like improvements to the CRM, those types of things. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Now
The
the switch
CRM then
between.
will.
Sorry,
My
go ahead.
apologies.
Sorry,
You started
no, no,
first. Proceed.
after you. No, no, after you.
Okay.
Uh,
The CRM will be delivered in this same way with the same interface,
mm-hmm.
and the difference being that instead of like GPT 4.0, blah, 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 it would launch with only the CRM. And you're sort of like, you're locked
Yeah,
into it.
and maybe a general purpose like HAL, even though
Yeah,
HAL is
yeah, something like that. Something like that. So,
yeah,
because like just to save time, we'll launch it'll be a totally separate web page. It'll have bits stripped out. The available naps will be reduced.
yeah,
All that just, yeah.
but that pull down should not talk about models because the models
No,
are defined by the
it's
naps. They
that's right.
shouldn't be a list of
It's a
naps.
totally locked down version. You can have your login, you can have all this stuff, but you're talking to the CRM, and then we'll use the stuck loop to figure out how to make that dedicated deployment of the CRM blend into the general presentation of the Dreamcatcher, so that you can switch between the CRM and Rogan Josh and holiday booking and all those other things,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yeah,
Okay, all
yeah,
right, and
exactly.
that saves me a lot of time because we've burned months trying to get that connection going between the general platform and the specific
Yeah,
sort of closed wall app like the CRM, and we're doing that in the wrong order. We should deliver the CRM first. Um, that seems pretty
yeah,
good. I reckon I can get this up and running in like a couple of days type of thing because it's all pre-built, and then I'll just hook the back end in, and then I might not even need to use naps actually for the meantime.
no, you can fake it until you make it.
Yeah,
Nobody's gonna know.
they
We
ain't.
need to get naps, but nobody else in the world, other than our 20 subscribers, knows what a nap is, and even probably half of those don't understand it.
Well, that's rude.
So
That's very presumptuous of you to say that. You don't know half of them.
no, I don't. No, no, no. That is actually quite rude. I apologize. But yes, we get that loop going. Um, Now, we've been going around this a lot. I think we've synced on this one. This would be beautiful. Um, Go back. Well, can I do a time check? How much time you got left?
None.
Damn
But I
it.
can do some urgent stuff.
All I always want to know is what you're talking about in moving the defs to naps.
Okay, so yeah, I'll show you that. This is where I'm building the next iteration of Artifact,
Mm-hmm.
which is the NAPS version. And then in this folder structure that makes up the application, you can see all of the NAPs represented by each of these folders. Like there's the Dumbot NAP, there's
Right. And
the
inside of that is the
files NAP.
JSON and information, is it?
Yeah, there's
Instructions,
the
sorry.
yep,
Yeah.
there's the instructions, there's the nap.json.
And there's some
Yeah.
tests. Yeah.
And so what
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
saying is that maybe we pull in definitions so that that's one of these folders. And the reason I say that is because for me to talk to the bot about, hey, what should the files map do? And have the gold definitions on hand to say, see these definitions, blah, blah, blah. That, like, because in Cursor, I can't pull that stuff in from somewhere else, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
now I don't know if that's allowing Cursor to dictate our project structure, but nonetheless, I think we both agree that the definitions need to be a nap, and why not put it in here? And then so when you were going to update these definitions, you'd just be working in that one folder.
Okay. So just for the brevity of time, if there's another way of doing brevity, I don't know. Um,
The brevity of
what
distance.
what that require is some kind of context because uh, a definition, a single definition by itself means very little
Yep.
unless it has some kind of link, which comes back to the graph discussion that we're having. Some kind of sideways link. It's like this definition is consistent with this definition, which is
Yeah.
consistent with this one, and so on. It's not really a hierarchy
Yep.
because they're not all derived from a parent-child
Yep.
relationship.
That's right.
So
That's
so
right.
long as we have that, then it makes sense because we're dealing with smaller nuggets, as opposed to the big heap thing. Always felt a bit weird because
It's
how
not
big is this
possible.
heap going to get?
I think that it breaks our brains. I think that,
Yeah,
and it's hard to utilize because what it's implying is that in order to use the knowledge in this heap, you have to bring whatever you want to do into the heap. It's
yeah,
not designed to stand off at a distance and use it like a remote tool.
yeah. So to create a definition or to move a definition to a nap, the only thing I'd say, you've probably already done it, is to create a context. It's like
What's a context?
which other definitions are consistent when
What's
taking this
what's
approach.
so what's the difference or what's wrong with taking this entire folder here?
Mm-hmm.
So all this stuff, the whole lot,
Yeah.
copying it over into a folder here and saying that that's now the definitions nap.
No, because you had a whole bunch of transcripts there, which are not definitions. They haven't been
No,
compiled down.
yeah, but that's all. That's just like in any given nap, there's a bunch of stuff that's used to like test data. Test data is not part of the
Um,
files nap, but it's used to produce it.
well, drill down into choose any definition nap, and let's drill down. You might have already solved this because it seems self-evident.
What? Sorry, what? What am I drilling into?
Give me. Have you moved any of the definitions over to a nap
I've done none of this. I'm just talking about it with you.
All right. Okay. All right. Fine. Well,
I can do it right now just to prove a point, I guess. So
Um,
I'll copy that, and then I'll make a new blah 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 here. What would I call this nap?
I'll just do a test because it's going to be Scratch, whatever it is.
Don't be so sure, my friend. This is how
You
things
just
end up.
polluted your file structure.
I have
Goodness.
Git, dude. What do I care?
So, any definition? I'm thinking that if right, definition at the moment is natural language. NAP is natural language plus JSON. Yeah. What I'm saying is the context is this definition is self-consistent with. Sorry, this NAP def is part of a bigger scheme, and here's another NAP def, and they both have something probably in JSON saying you are part of the Dreamcatcher overall definitions.
I don't think they need that because look, I just
Uh,
copied this whole folder in. I believe that more or less everything in the gold definitions folder is self-consistent. I can now make good use of that in Cursor by saying,
well, we can go. We can go with that for now. But when we're dealing with gold definitions for something else, like a CRM,
yeah, well, that'd be a totally different nap. It'd be the okay. So these would be the Dreamcatcher definitions.
yeah, it
Yeah,
would just be like a JSON field saying you're part of Dreamcatcher.
yeah. I think the fact that it's in this folder
Was
with
implied.
yeah, so this folder
Okay,
is
yeah, I
considered
get that.
the artifact standard library of naps. Yeah, I guess that it's
Okay,
not quite accurate, but this nap would be the Dreamcatcher
okay,
definitions.
that solves that. So
Yep.
the context is the gold definitions. We're actually talking about gold definitions for Dreamcatcher, not gold
Yeah,
definitions for CRM or
that's
gold
right.
definitions
That's right.
for
That's right.
choosing perfume or whatever.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay, that can be implied.
And then what
Yeah.
that
Okay.
means,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
all good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okie
Good with
dokie. Were there any other items on the agenda to cover off then?
that. No. That is good.
Good to go.
If I so I've got access to this repo.
Yep.
You've got your own dodgy instance server somewhere. Uh,
What?
but I'm just going to assume it's just a repo and I'm going to use it on my own dodgy instance.
So what do you want to do? Sorry, what's the question?
No. I'm just thinking through. What I want to do is, well, actually, no. That's a question. What do I do? What's the most useful thing that I do? Because we've crossed a lot of territory today.
I think that the most useful thing that I can think of is to go into this repository
The reasoning
and
one, yeah.
the reasoning one, familiarize yourself with Cursor and go through the definitions yourself
And
using
do
Cursor.
a kind of meat brain AI enhanced
Well, it needs
check kind of
you.
thing.
We need to reach consensus. This is definitions according to me,
Okay.
right? But you've got a lot of other stuff that you brought in. Now, what I've been doing is so I connected up my notebook, like my little inventor's notebook,
Mm-hmm.
which was
Oh,
on
you,
another
okay.
computer of mine, not this one.
You've
And
been waiting
then
years for this, haven't you?
yeah, I
Years
know,
wanting
right?
to.
And then I used Cursor to go through it and find everything to do with impact crystals in every note ever, and then summarize it. And then I used that to create this definition of an impact crystal. Right. And so, what I'm suggesting to you is that you can go through your Dreamcatching space, use Cursor
Yeah.
to extract out all your stuff,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
right?
And
And you can ask questions like, in this file, what does it contain that conflicts with the definitions or is missing
Right.
from the definition.
And then we can merge finally.
Yeah, we can finally merge. And so
Okay.
that exercise will serve two purposes. Number one, familiarizing you with this tool, which I think is useful because it's the concept of multi-file editing,
Yep.
which is what we've wanted all along, and now it's here.
Yep.
Um, it is allowing you and I to merge so that we have a single point to stand on, and it's also bringing in all of your existing thinking and reasoning, and which
Yeah,
will
because we've got a whole
stimulate
bunch of
new
stuff
reasoning.
that we did, oh God, 6 months ago around testing
Mm.
and judged loops and remember all that kind of thing.
Yeah, I know.
Probably what we'll do is okay. No, I don't need to talk to you because
Yeah.
I'll
So
just
figure that out.
yeah.
But that you and I need to be working from the same set of definitions, because once we both agree on what gold means, then we can split, and you can go do things like website, promotional materials, business development,
Right.
um,
Yeah. Yeah.
website bot, all those
All
other
that good stuff.
things,
Yeah.
and I can carry on with
But at the moment, until then, really what we're talking about is the God of the gaps. In all that work that we've been doing over the last year.
yeah,
Um, oh, what's missing from
what's
these
missing? Yeah,
definitions?
yeah, what's
Um,
missing? What's missing?
okay. All right. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Happy with
Okay.
that. All right. Right. Tomorrow's Sunday, and Sunday usually turns into family day.
I
But I'm
can't
not
do
going.
tomorrow. Sorry.
All right. Okay. That's cool. That leaves me off from the guilt of having to say I can't do tomorrow either.
You shouldn't be
Uh,
guilty. What I value is a commitment of a specified time. I'm not too fussed about how far in the future or when it is. But
Monday then. So
Monday, what time?
uh, um,
I'll stop recording. Hey, I think we're done for tonight. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just